When replacing the front differential to transfer case drive shaft, 7/16 and a pry bar, you're going to hold that drive shaft from spinning and put a 7/16 wrench or socket and get that bolt loose. You can do this to both U-joint caps. Once you've loosened them up, you can just take them right out. Once I loosened them up, I used an electric gun to back them off. You just want to make sure you break them free without rounding them off. That's why I did it by hand. And then we can set them aside. Because we're replacing the drive shaft, we don't need to mark where the cap, which U-joint was in the yoke, because it's going to have a whole new drive shaft, a new U-joint. So now we can go to the transfer case side and move those caps. It's 5/16 down here also. Make sure that's on there. This one might be a little trickier to hold because of the double velocity joint here. So see if you can get a good grip on that to stop that from spinning. See if you can break these free. There's 4 total, so you're going to do this to all 4 of them. Now with all the U-joint cap bolts out and caps strapping gone, I'm going to take a pry bar. I'm going to pry it out of the front differential first. And it might be a little difficult because it gets rusted. And now I can hold onto that and the back will fall right out. So now I'm going to take all 8 of the mounting bolts, clean the threads up with a wire brush or a wire wheel before I reapply thread locker and tighten it up. Now I've cleaned all my mounting bolts for the U-joints and caps, and I'm just going to put a little bit of medium strength thread locker on them. This will stop them from backing out during the high speeds. So before replacing the new drive shaft, this is a storage for a package to make sure the caps don't come off. Just remove it so that you can easily install it once you get it up there. Now I'm going to install the drive shaft into the transfer case side. Hopefully line that up. At the same time, line the front up. Now the drive shaft does slide, so you can spread it out. You want the cap to be on the inside of that notch right there, so the cap rests right on that. And then you can put on your U-joint strap caps and start the bolts. So you want to just examine the U-joint strapping, make sure there's no huge wear marks in them, and that sometimes they do stretch. You don't want to reinstall those because if they're stretched, they're not going to hold the U-joint down tightly to the actual yoke. I'm just going to put them on finger tight down on this end, and then I'll do the same on the other before I start tightening up. Now this one's going to be a little tricky because of the double joint, velocity joint. So I'm going to see if I can suspend it by hand and start the mounting bolts. Do not tighten one, start them all, so that you can shake the shaft like this to make sure the threads line up. Hold it firmly in the spot, and that way you can turn the drive shaft and snug them down and hand tighten them. Now I've started them all by hand. I know they're not cross-threaded. I'm just going to bottom them right out. Now, just like how I loosened them, I'm going to put the pry bar in there, and I'm just going to put a 5/16 wrench on there. And I'm going to see if I can get at least 1/8 of a turn once they've been all bottomed out, so that I can ensure that they're as tight as they can go. And I'm going to double check all of them, work my way back around to confirm that they're tight as they can be. So the last thing we're going to do is tighten up the front U-joint caps. This one's definitely easier to get to. I'm just going to bottom them all out and then go around and give them one last turn. I'm going to just take my wrench, make sure I can give it at least 1/8 of a turn. Last thing you're going to do is fill the spline area up with grease. So put your grease gun on and then pump grease in it. And you'll see the spline shaft here start to push out, and you'll see a little bit of grease come out, and then it's full.